Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, just doing a quick update recording regarding the live letter that's going to be happening this Friday. Now, I already did a video telling you the date, the time, and the general contents, my thoughts, my hopes of things that I'd like to see, and the general timeline of the patch afterwards, which, we do expect another live letter 5 weeks after this, another 9 to 10 days after that, we expect a patch. So not really that far from patch 7.3. But they actually made an addendum to it when they posted their update earlier on June 17th. And I didn't even see this because why would I check? I already know what's coming with the live letter, but I guess I've learned my lesson. I should also always be checking the lodestone like I tell other people. So all this information is largely the same at 4 a.m. Pacific, 7 a.m. Eastern for me now, YouTube, Nico, and Twitch. But the actual contents of the live letter have been updated. Originally, it just said it was going to be patch 7.3 part 1 and miscellaneous updates, what we expected. However, they are now dedicating the entire first half to addressing player feedback on Cosmic Exploration and the Occult Crescent. I've actually enjoyed both of them to some degree, with criticisms and feedback on both of them. With Cosmic Exploration, I'm not a crafter or a gatherer really. I do it occasionally sometimes, but it's kind of a formality for me to just level my crafters and gatherers to max level every expansion, just so I can make sure I can do my own materia melts, repairs, like all that just stays up to date, right? But I still went and got every relic in Cosmic Exploration. I did it plenty, and, it was okay. Just wasn't going to ever be something for me long term, and I accepted that. Occult Crescent, I have spent way too much time in, and I had to force myself to step away for a Final Fantasy V 4-job fiesta, was kind of in the mood, and now a Final Fantasy X no Sphere Grid run. And I've honestly enjoyed both, but there are definitely places I'd like to see things improve. So, what are some player feedbacks that we can maybe expect to hear about with both of these things? Starting with Cosmic Exploration, I think the most obvious one is the actual base advancement. A lot of servers just not having enough people online, it failing, and then cutting off your access to red alerts for the next, 6 to 8 hours. It not only makes you feel bad for not participating in the event, not helping, but then to punish players, sometimes multiple times in a row, taking away this incredibly valuable progression resource, especially for people working on the achievement and or their remaining relics, just doesn't seem like a good feedback loop for the player. So I'm definitely expecting to see maybe some dynamic scaling with that, and also not getting rid of the red alerts. I just don't think there's a good reason to do that double punishment of not advancing and then not having the red alerts on top of that. I think the actual leave quests have some gaps in the level ranges that make the leveling a little bit weird. Like, maybe they just didn't want to completely rule out other methods by making it so you had something to go from 10 to 100 super easily. So they have those big level gaps. Like, what is it? It's like 10, 50, 90, 100, I think are the level gaps for everything that's in there. And yeah, it's kind of weird because if you're like in your mid 60s, then the level 50 ones aren't very good. But if you go over and do the diadem and suffer the inventory prog, that could be better, And on top of that, you can still do the crafting. Maybe that is the logic, and maybe that's what they'll tell us. But improving the leveling process for those in-between levels on your way up to 90, I think could use some improvement. 90 to 100 seemed pretty easy. I leveled them all from 90 to 100, and I thought that was fine. We could also use some clarification on some of the reward structures. For example, the 500,000 mount being a reskin of the mount that you could get pretty easily from the rest of Cosmic Exploration. A lot of people have been disappointed about that and holding on to the copium that just maybe that's only the first of 4 mounts, given that we are getting 4 separate planets, but there's nothing to firmly indicate that, and letting players know that that feedback has been heard and that they will do adjustments to the mounts in the future so that they're not reskins would definitely go a long way. I also think that addressing the difficulty of the missions could be a little bit of an odd one. They will probably remind people there is a new set of crafted gear coming out in 7.3, but then how do you keep scaling the difficulty up into 7.3 through 7.5, or even just making it so there's something new and refreshing? The bonus actions, probably something they need to look at as well, because most people just try to avoid using those bonus actions almost entirely. They just like, well, I'm just going to use the actions that I already have, and I'm just going to put those into the macros and try to make it work. And then you get into the expert crafts, and maybe you actually have to, pay attention a little bit. So there's a lot of balancing issues that could definitely be improved, and I think they could also definitely improve the mech ops to be a little bit more engaging, maybe a little bit more rewarding for when you are picked to get put in the mech, and also maybe a little bit more rewarding if you go and you're not put in the mech. Also, probably making it completable if you don't have anyone in the mechs is probably a good idea. Or if nobody puts in a mech ticket, the ability to just take up a mech for free. You know, if there's just an empty slot, first come, first serve, someone grabs a mech. I think they really need to do that for the long-term scalability of the content. So those are some pieces of feedback for Cosmic Exploration. What about Occult Crescent? I've talked about it plenty. I think the big thing most people are going to be looking for is Forked Tower. A lot of people have divisive thoughts about different aspects of it. The people who do not like doing the more difficult raids or this whole permadeath thing kind of scares them away from it, or they're really just kind of against these pre-organized groups in Discord being like the primary method of doing it. They would like a two-tier difficulty, like a way for the casual players to enter, the people who just want to go in and enjoy the content and have something to shake things up a little bit. But that doesn't have all the punishment, something more like a CLL or a Dalriada. But then for the other players to still have an option where they have a Savage equivalent, where we have basically the rules that we have now, and having separate access points so that it's somewhat doable all the time. I think the instance size of 72 has come into question a lot. If you're going to have up to 48 players that are taking up the zone and it's going to be a difficult raid, the instance size being 72 really doesn't work out. So doubling that to 144 like it was in Eureka would be kind of a band-aid fix, but also queuing in and getting all 48 of those people into the same instance. You know, if you are going to do it this way, and I think with the way the difficulty is scaled, it's not really hard enough to be like a DRS separate queue, but we'd really like a way to get in guaranteed. And we might see stuff like that. So all the Fork Tower entry requirement things, I think a lot of people are looking at. Some people looking at the difficulty to maybe be addressed in some capacity. And we'll see. I mean, there's all sorts of things. And if this is going to take, 45 minutes to an hour, we hope they would address all of them. I think the acquisition rate of silver coins in particular is a little bit daunting. And gold coins, if you don't have like warrior, sage, or like ninja, it can be really hard to get invited into those groups, which could also be quite discouraging for some players. So maybe some actions that would actually make the farming for gold coins a little bit better for players in smaller groups or in more traditional party groups. What else is there? There's a handful of other things, some bug fixes that we may just eventually see. Maybe the carrot acquisition rate from bronze chests, that could be a thing, or there's that. Atma drop rates, I'm sure some people might be looking at, but it's more relic than it is directly Occult Crescent. Like, you could ask that question about the fates outside, but they're kind of inextricably tied. There's definitely pieces that some people want to know more about, because we're not going to have another zone till 0.55, and if they can actively make adjustments and additions to the Occult Crescent in the meantime, as we know we will be getting 3 new Phantom jobs in 7.4x, maybe they could do some other stuff in there. Maybe they could address the fates. Maybe they could add new things in there. I don't think they will, but those are all things that, again, people are going to be paying careful attention to. So I'm glad that they are taking this time to address the feedback that people have had about these things. While they are similar to things we've had in the past, they've also had their own blights, even with the adjustments that they've made for the feedback that they got from those old things. And so we need to see lessons learned. If they're getting content, I've been doing it. It's made me forget that we're really only about, 6.5, 7 weeks away from a patch as of the recording of this video. And that's nice, because now I can occupy myself with just a few more weeks, and then it'll be patch time. And 14 Mobile in China just hit open beta, so I'll probably be paying careful attention to that news as well, as you've probably seen the other video that I've posted before this. But anyway, yeah, I just figured I would give you guys an update. I would love to hear what your thoughts are in the comment section of the video below. They're obviously not going to be influencing the live letter. They've been collecting that type of feedback on the forums and other places for, probably weeks now, months in the case of Cosmic Exploration. But yeah, curious to see what you're hoping to hear about, what you're hoping to see specifically from that part 1, and hell, maybe in the part 2. I know some of you still holding out for Beastmaster in part 2. I wouldn't. I think the Blue Mage update's coming first, and then Beastmaster in 0.4x or 5x. Deep Dungeon we might get a peek at, and I know a lot of people wondering, are we getting an Ultimate in 0.3? It's not unlikely, but it's not guaranteed either. So we'll have to definitely keep an eye out for that. I'll be doing all my usual coverage of that Friday morning. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see all of you in the next one. Until then, take care.